Wait for that to change. Hello? Hello, everyone. How is it going? All right. Bear with us. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. So just want to ensure we're all good to go here. A little bit of fun stuff for soul learning as we're going. So just wanted to welcome everybody in. Looks like we got 49 people in here so far, which is amazing. Love that for us. Just wanted to welcome everyone in for the launch of the UDT. This is something that's very special, something that Simon, our CEO, is very, very excited for, and myself included. I'm Edward. I'm the marketing guy, or the person if you call. That's me most likely. I'm up here in Vancouver, Canada. You can kind of see the outside that we have behind us, and maybe you saw on the weight screen as well some of the views from the city. But yeah, so again, this is gonna be pretty exciting. We're gonna have a couple of giveaways. We're gonna have for this morning, for the 10 a.m., we're gonna be actually giving away one of the Momentum wallets. So that's with that. But everyone that's entered and everyone that's here and that comments is also gonna be entered in to win a UDT. Or if you already purchased the UDT, we'll refund you the money and ensure that you're all taken care of and the watch will still be out to you. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm gonna bring Simon in and yeah, let's see what we can do here. Perfect. Yeah, nice to see everybody commenting as well. So Simon, I'll let you introduce yourself and do everything here, and then we'll get the show on the road.
Perfect. Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. As Edward said, this is our first live event, so forgive us if there are any kind of hiccups along the way. But essentially, as many of you will know, we launched a model that was made by Chronosport, which was a company my brother and I owned many years ago. We launched the C-Quartz 30 last year, and it was a huge success for us and proved to be the most popular new model launch we've ever done. And we've been getting steady requests to reproduce the UDT model, which was another iconic Chronosport model from the 1980s. It was famously worn by Sylvester Stallone in, I believe it was Rambo 2, and Rick Simon on the Simon and Simon detective show in the 1980s as well. And yeah, so the UDT had this well-known Monin case shape, the same as the C-Quartz basically in the overall shape of the case, but added analog digital. And in those days, when we launched it, analog quartz was still fairly new, and analog digital was certainly very new. So yeah, Edward is just working now and will be putting the product page live in just a second. But I wanted to maybe just show you the, let's just take a look here if I can show you what we're talking about here with the new UDT. So let's just see here. So this model here is actually out of the production tooling. It's the UDT. It does have some differences. The display down at the bottom here is a little larger than the original. We actually went through two modules. The first UDT that launched had a smaller 4-digit display and very little functionality, just time and date, and a very simple stopwatch, I believe. It had no second hand, but there were technical issues with the movement. It was the first analog digital movement made by ETA, which is now Swatch Group in Switzerland. And apparently the traces on the IC chip that drove it were placed a little too close together, and it created some arcing So the digital display after a couple of years started to flicker and go nuts. And the model was extremely popular, but the module wasn't that reliable. So back in the Chronosport days, we were working with Breitling to make this model, and we switched to using a movement made by Seiko Epson, which was way more reliable and had more functionality with dual time, alarm, stopwatch built in. But the display was a little bit narrow and small and hard to read. So we think that this new UDT is a great mix of the original styling, but a slightly bigger digital display. The watch is a tiny bit bigger. If you measured the 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock dimension of the case, the original UDT was around 40 millimeters, and this is 42 millimeters in the new UDT. But you will see the case shape is very much the same with the relatively short lugs. You'll see there are angled cuts here on the edge of the lugs, and it has a fairly short lug to lug. So the watch is 42 millimeters, but the lug to lug is only just over 47 millimeters. So it will fit even a relatively small wrist quite well, even though it does have quite a big dial and big display on it. A couple of other things that are really critical with this, which were very important to us, is that the digital and the analog are synchronized. That means that if you set the digital time, and we prepared a couple of little videos that we're just putting live on YouTube, going over the case, going over the modes and functions, and showing you how to set it. But essentially, if you set the digital time, the hands don't need to be set separately. They will just synchronize automatically to match the digital display as soon as you've set the time. The push buttons on this model are screw down locking push buttons, and you'll see that there's a little red stripe on the tip of the push buttons. So when the push buttons are locked, the watch is 200 meter tested, and but you can't use the push buttons to change modes or functions. So to activate the push buttons, then you basically need to just grab this ridged flange around the push button and unscrew them. And when you unscrew it, the red stripe disappears and the push buttons are unlocked. So as you step through it, you can, this center button selects the mode. So I have the time of day. I have T2, which is obviously a second time zone or dual time. You can use that for GMT or when you're traveling. The next mode is the wake up alarm that you can then switch on. You can switch on an hourly chime to beat every hour on the hour. It gives a little beep. This is with the alarm and chime on, and then everything off. Then you have the stopwatch mode, the chronograph mode, which is start stop up on this top button, and it cycles around, so I'm back to the time of day. When you're showing the time of day, you have a choice of seeing the time in a digital format, and you can, when you set that, you can have it as AM, PM, or 24-hour military style time. And you can also pick a display to show the month and day and date. Yeah, so that's basically the new UDT. Some other little changes that you will see compared to the first version of it back in the 80s. In those days, sapphire glass was something that was just not available. It was so expensive. So we're happy that we're able on this one to make the glass solid sapphire, so you can basically drag a screwdriver across the glass and it won't scratch. The bezel insert is also, instead of being anodized aluminum, it is a matte ceramic. It took us a little bit of time working with the bezel insert maker to get the matte ceramic the way we wanted it. It kind of go through an iteration where we started with a typical ceramic bezel like this, which is a shiny ceramic bezel. It went through an iteration where the insert maker was able to do it a slightly more matte finish, but a brushed finish with very, very bright silver numbers that we felt wasn't right, and the numbers were too heavy compared to the original. And then we went through an iteration where we got the matte right, and finally changing it to the smaller numbers to match the original design that you see here. Yeah, so for the launch today, as Edward maybe explained, I think the listing should be live now. And we are, for this first production, any pre-orders placed before we sell out on the first production, the list price on the watch is going to be $369 US or $499 Canadian. And the special pre-order pricing, as you will see on the product listing on our website, will be $295 US or $399 Canadian. So it's a bit of a special price to get this launched and on wrists, because I know a lot of customers have been asking us for this new UDT, and we think you'll be pretty pleased with what you see. I just wanted to answer a few questions that are coming in. Ray is asking, is there a 24-hour bezel? And the answer is not yet. For now, it's a 60-minute one-way timer bezel. We may look at doing a 24-hour bezel in the future, but really this is just getting the first product into production and onto wrists. But we've been getting a lot of requests. Would we do a champagne gold-plated edition, a steel edition? And there's a bunch of ideas that we're looking at once this initial UDT in the matte black is on people's wrists. I do see a number of questions. Luke was asking, can we make it with full Arabic numerals? And I know there was an original, one of the Type 1 UDTs in Black Ion did have full Arabic numerals. The problem with that is that because we elected to go with a larger LCD display, which we do feel is a big advantage and much more legible, the larger LCD display does come down a little lower on the dial. So the problem is then, if we were to put full Arabic numbers, we would have to jam in a 6 in a very small space at the bottom of the dial, and that would be pretty difficult. It would just look a little bit funny, because basically for the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, getting Arabic numbers to fit on the dial without either shrinking to a smaller digital display or making the watch a larger diameter, would be really quite a bit bigger and wider. There's really not room for the Arabic numerals right now, though we are playing around with various ideas to try and find a way to do that. Do we have a loom shot? I think we're just working right now on a time lapse loom shot. Um, and actually, then one of the things we found is then the hands are really very good. They're all superluminova, but there weren't quite enough layers on the indexes. So the hands we found were legible for up to about 7 or 8 hours, and the indexes were fading quite a bit faster than that after 3 or 4 hours. So we've been working with the dial maker. They're just finishing the dials right now, and they're going to use a more concentrated superluminova and try and put another layer or two on there to increase the luminosity on the indexes. There is also a superluminova dot in the arrow, the index marker on the turning bezel. And Libby was asking, is there a second time zone? Yes, definitely there's a second time zone. So if I press the mode button here, you'll see it comes up T2, and T2 can be set independently, and that is your second time zone. So you can, of course, James is saying it's not a GMT. Well, you can set T2 to GMT time or UTC time if you want, and that way your T2, when you pull it up, will also show you GMT time anytime you want to see it. I had a question here about what is the lug width. The lug width is 20 millimeters, which is the same as the original UDT. So it's a bit of a strap monster, and it looks great on a wide variety of straps. We had a hard time deciding which ones to present it on. Yeah, and Roland mentioned it would be good to have a reverse countdown bezel. That's something that's easily possible too. So we're working on that. Another question from Joshua, is the LCD backlit? And the answer is no, it isn't. The original UDT with the Swiss movement was not backlit. The later one with the Epson movement was, but just for technical reasons, adding a backlight panel and a light button would have made the watch a lot thicker. So we elected to go with C3 Superluminova on the analog part. And yeah, so unfortunately there is not a backlight behind the digital display. But the nice thing is that the watch is just over 11, it's 11.5 millimeters thick, which for a solar rechargeable Anadigit is a pretty thin case thickness. Another question from Andrew is about how durable is the ion plating compared to DLC or diamond-like coating. And I guess the answer to that is it's very, very durable. The original UDT there wasn't black ion plating available when the original UDT was launched. It used a black chroming system, and that would scratch and peel and wear off after a few years. This black ion plating is very, very durable, though of course it is white 316L stainless steel underneath it on the case. So obviously if you grind it into a really sharp rock or something that scratches right into the surface, you could eventually see white metal underneath it. But it is a very durable, very high quality finish, and we think it will last for many, many years. Yeah, Jeff was saying the digital window is a bit big, and that was a tricky thing. Do we make the digital a little more compact? But in the end, the whole team here, looking at it, decided that a slightly bigger, more legible LCD display would make the watch much more functional, where you can actually read the alarm time or the second time zone and so on. Um, will there be a stainless steel bracelet? Yes, there will. We are working on that. We're trying to see if we can do some special things with the clasp. And the bracelet, we couldn't get that ready in time for the launch. It'll probably be the very end of this year, maybe just before Christmas, but probably early next year. Someone's just asking if they can see the backside of the watch. So let's just unstrap this here. So that is the back side of the watch. It's pretty simple. It's just a stainless steel case. There it is in side profile. And as I said, you can then lock the push buttons by just turning that flange on each push button. So there it is, front. It's quite a slim profile. And there's the case back. That actually has a label on it, which is why it's a bit reflective. Yeah, so we'll just put that back. Okay. There we go. So back with it there. I'm just going to keep trying to answer some questions and let people know. The engraving, we use a diamond tipped. Someone is asking Joshua, how deep is the engraving if we engrave it? And I'm not sure exactly in terms of fractions of a millimeter how deep, but it is a diamond tipped computerized engraving machine that we have both in our US and Canadian offices. And so they're custom engraved. And we do a lot of those for police forces and fire departments where we're putting badge numbers and ranks and service history and short messages, and haven't had any complaints about it. It's certainly deep enough into the stainless steel back that it will be legible and very durable. So on this first pre-order, Tim is asking when will the delivery be on the pre-order? The first production is due in later in August, and by the time we assemble it and ship it, we expect to be shipping all the initial pre-orders from the first batch in the first half of September. Pierre is asking, will the C-quartz bracelet fit this model? And the answer is no. It's a tiny bit larger diameter, and so the curve on the end piece is slightly different. Also, the 5-link Jubilee style bracelet that was the original bracelet on the C-quartz was not the original style. It was a 3-link flat link bracelet that went on the UDT. So that's what we're working on. It's going to look very much like the original UDT bracelet with a matte black ion finish. But there are some special things we're trying to do around the clasp and the extension on the clasp that are proving to be a bit of a challenge for our bracelet maker. So that's going to take us a while before we have the steel bracelet. Sure, and I would be happy to show you the strap. The all black one is maybe going to be a bit difficult to see, but let me just show you. We also have it in a sand color. So what I'll maybe do is I'll show you the sand color one, and let's just see here. So the sand color one is basically exactly the same bracelet, the same strap, but it will be in black. Let me just show you what that's going to look like. So this is the strap. The nice thing about it, on these Zulu bands, on these one-piece nylon bands, is that if you have a smaller wrist, they tend to fit very long, and you end up with a long tail of band hanging out the end. What we've done on this one is that there is this overlap here, and you can basically push this through and adjust the length of the band. So you can make it longer or shorter and size the band to fit your wrist exactly. And the watch can then slide up and down to center the buckle on your wrist. So it's quite a nice nylon weave. Now, we have made some, these are just in final production now. So the final production one will not only be laser holes in it, but they will be stitched around the holes, and it will also be stitched on the end of the band. So yeah, it will just be a bit reinforced and more durable and very easy to change the bands. This is the sand color one, because interestingly, when they were making the sample bands and finishing all this for us in the hardware, they didn't have the right nylon weave twill in black. So they're making that for us specially, and we're expecting that to come in shortly. The main band that we are featuring it on is this hyper rubber strap, which is kind of a classic diver. It's a natural rubber band, so it's stretchy and soft. I mean, it will eventually become brittle. I did see one question about will it crack and break? And the answer is not very fast. We've been selling these for many, many years. And yeah, it's a very strong, very durable band. It's also a little bit more substantial with a step at the lug. So the band is a little bit wider up close to the watch and then tapers down, but very comfortable and very robust and very durable there. This is a little factory in Italy that makes these bands for us that we've worked with for, boy, over 30 years. It's a family-owned company, and they make great stuff. This rubber is a natural rubber that is infused with a little bit of vanilla scent to cancel out the unpleasant smell of natural rubber. And so the bands are well known for having a light vanilla scent. The other option is the same option that we had on the Seaports, which was to put it on a Tropic strap. So the Tropic strap has this great waffle pattern on the back, so it breathes quite nicely. It's quick click, so it's very easy to switch bands. This combination we thought was kind of nice with the red Tropic band and the red rings on the tips of the push buttons. So that's the red Tropic, and of course there's a black Tropic option that is very classic. The one-piece Zulu nylon band is closest to the original UDT, which was on a very simple one-piece nylon band when it was launched back in the 80s. So that's why we felt it important to have that one-piece nylon band. But as mentioned, that band is adjustable in length, so you won't end up having to have a big piece of nylon sticking out that you have to cut off. You can just adjust the nylon band shorter. And of course, the nylon bands are not quick click. They thread through both keepers. Some people like that because if you're worried about breaking one of the spring bars, the watch will still be attached to the other spring bar. So yeah, but it'll be very easy to just unthread with no tools, unthread and pull out the Zulu nylon band to change colors or put on a different band. That will be very easy. The Tropic bands are quick click in the red or the black, and then the hyper rubber strap is kind of the classic diver style that we think is maybe one of the nicest options on this watch. Let's try and answer a few more questions. Yeah, a couple of customers saying wish it had a backlit LCD and tritium tubes, but the Lume is going to be really pretty good, Superluminova C3. Um, and as I said, that we decided against doing the module with a backlight panel. It just would have been another control, but the most important reason why we didn't is that it would have made the watch substantially thicker. It would probably have gone from about 11.5 millimeters thickness to more closer to 14. And we decided not to do that. Um, yeah, so yeah, that was someone was just laughing that it was interesting. One of our customers, when we were talking about developing the UDT, and we mentioned a number of times that Sylvester Stallone wore a UDT and Rambo 2, and it was a lot of people became aware of it at that time. But we kept mentioning Sylvester Stallone, and one of our customers pointed out that Gerald McCraney on Simon and Simon, the 80s TV detective show, also wore a UDT. And there were actually quite a few episodes where it was very, very visible with him wearing it. Um, yeah, that's I'm just seeing here if there's some more. Yes, and someone asked, would a goma strap fit on it? Yes, absolutely it will. You just have to make sure that it's the 20 millimeter goma strap, not the 22 millimeter goma strap that fits on some of our larger models. Um, oh, another question someone was asking about one-piece rubber straps, and we do our convertible rubber strap, which can be a NATO style double rubber layer or a single pass Zulu style rubber strap. And those are just sold out, but they will be in the next week or two, and that makes a very nice option. So instead of a nylon pull-through band, also our convertible rubber pull-through band works pretty well. And Mubarak is asking, will we have enough stock or is this limited? We do plan to make this a permanent model in our line, but it's always very difficult trying to anticipate what demand will be when we first start production. So production and tooling and everything was started on this many months ago, and the initial batch, as I say, will be in next month, later next month. So to give ourselves a little margin for assembly and checking, we are pretty confident it will deliver in the first half of September, but it is a limited quantity. We don't like to divulge exactly how many pieces we're making in any given production. So there are quite a few watches coming in. But again, we thought that with the Sequartz 30 last year, and the first production, I think, sold out in 15 minutes. And when we put the second production live for pre-order, it sold out in 2 days. So we've actually already slotted up a second production just based on customer feedback. A second production has been slotted up shortly after the first one. So the first production and orders being placed now will be shipped by the first half of September, but there will be another production coming in early October. And we are going to try and have enough of them in stock to fill any demand through the holiday season and Black Friday and Christmas. Yep. Ray is just saying, when will the watch come out? So the pre-orders are open now, but we will be shipping the first watches latest in the first half of September. Ray is asking, would be interested in doing a collaboration with Tom Selleck, Gerald McCraney, and Sylvester Stallone to do special editions of the UDT and C quartz. I don't know how expensive that would be. One of the things that we're always trying to do is pack in as many features as we can, but make the watches in an affordable price range. And I think those guys are all fairly big names. And so I'm not sure how open they would be to a collaboration. One of the other questions someone asked is about the solar recharging. So for those who don't understand fully how that works, it's basically a quartz movement. The dial that you see on the watch is semi-transparent. And so there is a low charge warning feature built into the watch. So the digital display uses a lot less power than driving the analog hands. And if the watch has been somewhere in the dark with no light on it for a lengthy period of time, it can the battery can run low. And so what will happen is a little battery icon comes on the screen warning you that the charge is low. And shortly after that, the hands actually swing up to 12 o'clock and lock at 12 o'clock. So that's basically to save power when the battery is low. The digital time will remain accurate, but the hands will lock at 12 to tell you that the watch needs some light on it in order to charge. If you take the watch and you stick it in the sunshine or under a bright light, it will charge up pretty quickly. And once the battery has recharged a little bit, then the hands will automatically resync and match the digital time again. We suspect that for most people, if you're wearing the watch daily and it's getting some exposure to light all the time, you probably won't ever see the low charge warning or need to unlock the hands and charge it up under a bright light. But sticking under a bright light really will charge it up. And we're still doing some testing with it, but from a full charge, it should run for up to about 3 months with no light whatsoever on it, just from the power reserve in the battery. Well, I don't know what else I can tell you. I'm just going to do a little bit of a scan through to see if I've missed too many questions here. Yeah, Robert is saying in the 80s, Breitling made a watch called the Pluton, and the design was very similar. Were there some collaboration between Breitling and Chronosport? And the answer to that is definitely yes. The original Breitling was based in Geneva, and after the last member of the Breitling family to run the company passed away, his widow ended up selling Breitling to another Swiss watch company called Secura, which was based in Grenchen in Switzerland. And Chronosport had worked with Secura for many years. And our families were fairly close friends. Actually, the son of the owner of Secura, which became Breitling, went and stayed with my mother in England for a while to help improve his English. So we had a very good relationship with Breitling. And at the time, they were trying to reestablish Breitling. And we here in St. Moritz Watch Corp, we were Breitling agents for Canada, and Chronosport was Breitling agent for the United States. But initially, Chronosport had quite a bit more turnover with the success of the C quartz and so on. And we collaborated with them on making the analog digital UDT. And it was definitely the key seller. Breitling's was more, it was a stainless steel case, Pluton version with a compass bezel on it. So yeah, it looked a little bit different, but it was actually the same tooling and the same case maker, and Breitling actually did the assembly or the sub-assembly for Chronosport of that model. A few people got UDTs that something was overlooked and there was a Breitling logo on the crown or a Breitling logo somewhere on the case back or something, but they were basically the same watch with a different dial design and different finishes. So I hope that answers your question, Robert, there. Um, let's see what I've missed here. Ben also says he wished the hands were slimmer for better LCD legibility when covered by the hands. And yeah, that it's a compromise. It's always something that we are concerned about, which is if the hand is too thin, the luminous paint on the hand is going to be a very thin trace. And if there's not much luminous material on the hand, then the hand will not glow very well at night. The loom will kind of glow for 15 or 20 minutes on a very thin loom trace, and then it will fade away. So we were trying to get a balance between having a wide enough hand to be easily legible during the day and to be able to put a good amount of loom on it so the hands will be very visible for several hours at night and not obscuring the digital display too much. So Ben, sorry about that with the thinner hands. I know that there was on one of the original ones, the solution had been to put a very, very thin hand on the minute hand. So we put like a very, very narrow body on the minute hand with a bigger arrow at the end of the minute hand. So the arrow kind of passed below the digital display. Unfortunately, in this case, because the digital display is slightly bigger to make it more legible, putting a big arrow on the end of the minute hand, it would still be covering over part of the digital display, and it just didn't make sense for us. Yeah, and so Michael just talking about time zone 2 seems independent, and yes, it is independent as far as setting the hours and minutes, but the seconds are obviously synchronized with the main time. And then Tim is asking, are the lugs drilled all the way through for the spring bars? And the answer is no, they're not. It's not a drill through lug. That's, I know on a lot of military watches, people like that. The original didn't have drill through lugs, and we wanted to keep the look as close as possible to the original. So no, it is not drill through lugs. Let's just see. Yeah, and what we have done is we've also posted on YouTube a link to show you guys. There's basically 4 short videos. One video is just talking about the case and the shape and the lug shape, being that MRP, what a lot of people call a Mona case, because Tag Heuer did a deal selling those models in that case through a French company called Mona. But the cases originally were made by a Swiss case maker called MRP, like the original C-Quartz 30. And the UDT uses exactly that same case shape. So there's one short video just talking about the improvements with the ceramic bezel insert, the better finishing, the sapphire crystal, the screw down locking push buttons, and so on. Yes, oh, I see one comment that someone doesn't like screw down locking push buttons because that makes it difficult to use the push buttons. And the answer is these are quite special push buttons. So when they're screw down and locked, the watch is 200 meter or 660 foot test. But when you unscrew them and activate the push buttons to use them, the watch is still 50 meters or 150 foot waterproof test. So if you want to use the functions a lot and don't want to bother unscrewing the push buttons, you can leave them activated, unscrewed with the red stripe hidden, and you can then use all the digital features really whenever you want, just at the touch of a button, and you'll still be 150 foot, 50 meter waterproof. So I hope that will keep everybody happy. The nice thing then being that if you are going to really dive with it, you can screw down those flanges around each push button, lock the push buttons, and then there's no danger that you'll be pushing the push button underwater and force some moisture through the O-ring seals and get moisture in the watch. So it is locking if you really want to use it for diving, but for day-to-day wear, it's pretty water resistant, and you can splash it and wet it and go in the shower with it, and it won't leak even if the push buttons are unscrewed and unlocked. I hope that gives you we've been wearing the watch for the last while, and certainly it's been a lot of fun wearing it. It's kind of back to the original appeal of Anadigi, that you have the digital functions with the stopwatch. The alarm is great. I use it. It wakes me up, but it's not super loud. That's just one of the things. If you put the resonator and the alarm in a 200 meter test solid stainless steel case, the case is fairly strong and thick, and that will muffle the alarm's sound a little bit. So if you're going to use the alarm to wake you up, it's probably a good idea not to have it under a quilt or under a blanket, and put it on a nightstand or a table beside your bed on something that resonates a little bit, so the alarm is loud and clear and has the best chance of waking you up. Good. I don't know what else I can show you. Oh, just to summarize, there are videos available on YouTube, and Edward is going to set up the links for that. But as I say, there's one short video about the case and the external features on the case. There's another video just stepping through the functions, how they work, and what is available to you in functionality on the digital display. The third video goes into setting. And the setting is pretty intuitive once you've done it once, which is, let me just show, if I can show you a watch here, I'll give you a little summary. Let's just switch over to the video box here. So if I take the watch, I'm just going to unscrew all the push buttons and activate them. So showing you with the time of day here, I hope that's going to be clear enough for people to see. But so basically speaking, whatever is showing on the digital display can be set by pressing this button down at 4 o'clock. So when you press and hold that button at 4 o'clock for about 4 to 5 seconds, you'll see there the hours start to flash. And so if I adjust it, I hit the top button to adjust it up an hour and the bottom button to adjust it down an hour. So say I wanted to change it to, I don't know, 1:15, then I set the hours first. Once the hours are where I want them, I press the 3 o'clock button again, and now you'll see the minutes are flashing. And so press the top button to adjust up, and press the bottom button to adjust down. You can also press and hold it to scroll the time forward faster. So if I go here, say to 11:15, then 1:15, or 1300 hours, and then as I step through, that will allow me to set the seconds, so I can actually force the seconds up or down with the top and bottom buttons to synchronize exactly to a time signal, rather than resetting it to 0 and waiting for the clock to come around. And then it asks me, do I want a 24-hour military style time? And you just toggle that between 12-hour AM PM time or 24-hour military time. So there's 24 hours, there's AM PM, and then it asks me which year. And why does it do that if it's not showing the year? Well, the answer is it's programmed for perpetual date. So if you program in the year, it will know which month it is, which months are short months, and you won't need to do any resetting of the date. And then you have setting the month and the date, and then it cycles back around to show the time. Once you've finished setting the time, if you now, I've changed the time to, so it's a 1:17, if I finished setting, to exit the set mode, I press and hold the 3 o'clock button, and you'll see the time stops flashing, and the hands will automatically move to synchronize exactly with the digital time. So yeah, and setting anything works the same way. So if I switch modes, so say I go to T2 and I want to set my second time zone, again, I press and hold the bottom button to enter the set mode, and then switch what I'm setting with the 3 o'clock button. Once I have everything set, then I press the 3 o'clock button, hold for 5 seconds, and that exits the set mode. Yeah, so that is, nope, sorry, there we go. Okay, so just looking to see if anybody has some more questions here. I'm happy to answer them as I can. Someone's suggesting that we make a version in a titanium case with a titanium bracelet. Everything is possible, but it's kind of one step at a time, as tooling these things it takes quite a bit of time and money to make it happen. Oops. Oh, okay. Okay. So I think that's really about the long and the short of it. I'm maybe going to ask Edward to come in now. What we are going to do is we're going to do a draw.
I already have the name picked out.
Edward has already done a draw. So a lot of people don't know, but we also make some kind of nice wallets. The Bramante leather, which is a vegetable tanned Italian leather that we use for our Bramante leather straps, we make that into some pretty nice Bramante leather wallets. So just pulling one out of the packaging here. So it's a, let me just switch that to the other camera so I can show you. Yeah, so this is the wallet. It has a zipper pouch where you could put a few coins or an SD card and so on. It's bifold, so you open the watch up and there's an ID panel with a thumb slide to slide out a driver's license or some ID. The other thing is the slots are set vertical so that when you close your wallet and turn it on its side, the cards don't fall out of it. And then you can, if you still use cash, you can put some bills into the wallet here. And it is a really nice leather that's got a nice grain to it. As I say, it's vegetable tanned, and it will tend to wear in really nicely. Has a grommet with a here on the end of it, so you can attach it to a hook or chain if you like to attach your wallet to kind of fight pickpockets. But yeah, it's the people who have purchased these wallets say they love them. And Edward has picked a name, so maybe I'm just going to hand over to him and let him tell you who won the wallet. And don't forget, we're doing another little recap at 2 o'clock where we'll have another draw. That will be for a Black Orchid Magnum PI Hawaiian shirt from Honolulu. And then finally, everybody that's participated or placed an order will be entered in a draw, which we'll probably finalize tomorrow, to win a free UDT. So even if you ordered one on pre-order today, if you win the draw, then your order will be refunded and we'll make sure you get your watch anyway. So I'm just going to hand over to Edward. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everybody's interest, and I'm sure you're going to love the new UDT. Thank you.
Hello, it's me again. Okay, so the winner of the watch is Ray Vega, Vega. I'll reach out to you on Facebook, and I will ensure that we get that sent out to you. Again, even if you did win something in the earlier ones, we're still going to be putting everybody's name in to draw for the UDT. So, no, it is you, Ray. You are the winner. So yeah, you're good to go. I'm just reading the comments on here too. So yeah, alrighty, everybody, it was a pleasure. But yeah, we're excited to see what the future holds. Excited for the UDT, and we'll all see y'all later. Alrighty, ciao.